It's a rather sad day for film fans of of people who grew up with films in the 80s, 90s, and into the new millennium, and even some in the 70s. Why? Because one of the greatest African American actors, well, technically he was of African, Native, and Irish descent, but the point still applies. James Earl Jones passed away yesterday morning peacefully at the age of 93. Let me just see if there's an update on the cause of death. No, there isn't. Born in Alcatuba, Mississippi, in Arcabolta, Mississippi, on January 17th, 1931, to Ruth Conley Jones, Earl Jones, and Robert Earl Jones, a teacher and maid, and a boxer, butler, and chauffeur, respectively. His family shortly left shortly after his birth, and his father left the family shortly after his birth. Yeah, what a dick. I think the guy actually lived to be 95, 96. 96. Anyway, from the age of 5, James was raised by his maternal grandparents, John Henry Matt Conley and Maggie Conley, on their farm in Dublin, Michigan. They moved to Mississippi in the Great Migration. This proved to be a bit of a trauma for James as he ended up developing a stutter, refusing to speak. He would say in his first year of school, I was a stutterer. I couldn't talk, and my first year of school was my first mute year. And then those mute years continued until I got into high school. He credited his English teacher, Donald Crouch, who discovered he had a gift for writing poetry to help him end his silence. By getting him to read his poetry aloud to the class. Graduating in 1949 from Dixon Rural Agricultural School, now Brethren High School in Brethren, Michigan, where he served as vice president of his class. He would attend the University of Michigan, where he was initially a pre-med major before joining in the school's ROTC, feeling comfortable within the military structure and enjoyed the camaraderie of his cadets in the Perishing Rifles drill team and Scabbard Blade Honor Society. After his junior year, he focused on drama. And with the thought of doing something he enjoyed before he assumed he'd go off to fight in the Korean War. Needless to say, Jones didn't get that chance. He would graduate with a bachelor's of arts degree in 55 with a drama major. Jones was commissioned in mid 53 after the war's end and reported to Fort Benning, now Fort Moore, to attend an infantry officer's basics course. He would attend Ranger School and received his Ranger tab. Assigned at headquarters of the 30 and headquarters company of the 38th Regimental Combat Team, he initially reported to Fort Leonard Wood, but his unit was instead sent to establish a cold weather training command at former Camp Hale in Leaderville, Colorado. The battalion became a training unit for the Rocky Mountain terrain, where he was promoted to first lieutenant prior to his discharge. He would begin his acting career at the Ramsdale Theater in Manistee, Michigan in 53 as a stage carpenter from 55 to 57. And acted as a stage manager in his first acting season at Ramsdale. He portrayed Othello. His early career also concluded the ABC radio anthology series Theater 5. In 57, he made his Broadway debut, understudy to Lloyd Richards, in the short-lived play The Egghead by Molly Kazan, which only ran 21 performances. But 3 months later, Jones created the feature role of Edward the Butler in Doris Sherry's Sunrise at the Campobello at the Court Theater. In the early to mid 60s, he worked various Shakespearean in plays, tackling roles of Othello, King Lear, Oberon in A Midsummer Night's Dream, Absalom in Measure for Measure, and Claudius in Hamlet. Also during this time, he made his film debut in Stanley Kubrick's Doctor Strangelove, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying About the Love and Love the Bomb in '64 as a young Lothar Zog, the B 52 commander. He later played a surgeon and Haitian rebel in The Comedians alongside Richard Burton, Elizabeth Taylor, and Alec Guinness. In '67, he starred alongside Jane Alexander in Howard Slacker's play The Great White Hope at the Arena Stage in D.C. The role of the talented but troubled boxer Jack Jefferson. The play was basically a pseudo biography of real life champion Jack Johnson. And when it moved to Broadway in '68, Jones won the Pulitzer Prize for Drama and a Tony a year later for Best Actor in a Play and Desk Drama Award for his performance. He would also has been making test films for the children's series Sesame Street, and is cited in the production notes included in the DVD release Sesame Street Old School, circa when the show started out in the 6-year stretch from 1969 to 1974. The test on the screen, the short they had the greatest impact with test audiences was one showing a bald-headed Jones slowly counting to 10, which later he would get himself a celebrity guest role on the series alongside Carol Burnett. He also appeared in Guiding Light. In '70, he reunited with Jane Alexander for Great White Hope. And he was the second African American male performer after Sidney Poitier to be nominated for the Best Actor award by the Academy. In the '72 play The Man, Jones starred as a senator who unexpectedly became the first African American president of the United States. In '73, after playing Hickey on Broadway at the Circle in the Square Theater, in a revival of Eugene O'Neill's The Iceman Cometh, and starring once again in King Lear's titular role opposite Paul Sorvino, Renee Auberjonois, and Raul Julia at the New York City Shakespeare Festival in Central Park, which was recorded and broadcast in the PBS Great Performances series the next year. Jones played Lenny on Broadway in the '74 Brooks Atkinson Theater production of John Steinbeck's Of Mice and Men, with Kevin Conway and George and Pamela Blair as Curly's wife. Ms. George and Pamela Blair as Curly's wife. He also co-starred with Dion Carroll in the film Claudine, a rom-com. Focusing on systemic racial disparities that black families faced. And one of the first major films to tackle such themes is welfare, economic inequality, and the type of marriage of men and women in the African community during the '70s, which received widespread acclaim and Golden Globe nominations for their performances. Carroll also was nominated for an Academy Award for the Best Actress. But it wasn't until 1977 where James Earl Jones' career took off, taking on the voiceover role of the intimidating Darth Vader in George Lucas's space opera blockbusters, the Star Wars trilogy from '79 to '77 to '83. Though portrayed in costume by David Prowse, as Prowse's West Country accent seemed unsuitable for the role by director George Lucas. And this was actually a smart move by George. I mean, seriously, could you imagine Vader sound like, "No, Luke, I'm your father," instead of like this, which is what James portrayed. This is my best interpretation. "No, Luke, I am your father." So he would be credited for the third film and eventually for the first film's special edition release in 1997. In a 2008 interview, Jones explained that when Linda Blair, the girl who did the girl in The Exorcist, they hired Mercedes McCambridge to voice the devil coming out of her for her as a special effects thing. When it came to Darth Vader, James said, "No, I'm just the special effects." I thought, okay, I'll let them put my name on it. He actually received a Grammy for Best Spoken Word Album in Great American Documents, and in late '79 was on the short-lived police drama Paris. Jones also starred in the clearly acclaimed TV miniseries sequel Roots: The Next Generation as the older version of Alex Haley. Now, for those wondering, I as a kid as a teenager in middle school, I watched the original Roots series, the miniseries that aired in '77. Hmm. Getting back on topic, in '87 he would be in August Wilson's play Fences, a play set in the '50s, part of Wilson's 10-part Pittsburgh cycle, exploring ever evolving African American experiences and race relations examinations. In '82, he would be in Conan the Barbarian, the Eddie Murphy with Arnold Schwarzenegger. He would team up with Eddie Murphy in 1988's comedy Coming to America, and one of his most famous roles, the sports fantasy drama Field of Dreams in 1989, with the infamous with this well-known speech. Let me just pull it up.
Ray, people will come, Ray. They'll come to Iowa for reasons they can't even fathom.
Know
They'll
that
turn up your
too.
driveway, not knowing for sure why they're doing it. They'll arrive at your door as innocent as children, longing for the past. Of course, we won't mind if you look around, you'll say. It's only $20 per person. They'll pass over the money without even thinking about it. For it is money they have, and peace they like.
Ray, just sign the papers.
And they'll walk out to the bleachers, sit in shirt sleeves on a perfect afternoon. They'll find they have reserved seats somewhere along one of the baselines. So they sat when they were children and cheered their heroes. And they'll watch the game. It'll be as if they dipped themselves in magic waters. The memories will be so thick, they'll have to brush them away from their faces.
Ray, when the bank opens in the morning, they'll foreclose.
People will come, Ray.
You're broke, Ray. You sell now or you lose everything.
The one constant through all the years, Ray, has been baseball. America has rolled by like an army of steamrollers. It's been erased like a blackboard, rebuilt and erased again. But baseball has marked the time. This field, this game, it's a part of our past, Ray. It reminds us of all that once was good, and it could be again. Oh, people will come, Ray. People will most definitely come. Ray.
Which earned him an Academy Award for the Best Picture nomination. He also starred in the indie film Matawan in 1987, which dramatized the events of the Battle of Matawan, a coal miners' strike in West Virginia that occurred in 1920 in West Virginia. He received an Independent Spirit Award nomination for his performance. He also dabbled in other voice acting work. In 1985, he provided the voice of Pharaoh Ramesses II in Hanna-Barbera's The Greatest Adventure: Stories from the Bible. Served as the host of Long Ago, Far, Far, and Far Away in 1990, from 89 to 92. Hunt for Red October in 1990, Patriot Games in 92, The Sandlot in 93, Clear and Present Danger in 94, and Cry the Beloved Country in 95. He also lent his voice to probably one of the most crippling, childhood, traumatizing characters we know about. You guys know where I'm going with this. 1994's, or technically 1993's, when it came out in theaters. This is the guy who was the voice of Mufasa from The Lion King, a role that stabbed many of us in the heart as kids. In 92, he was presented the National Medal of the Arts by President George H.W. Bush, and he had the distinction of 2 Primetime Emmys that same year. In 91, he was Best Actor for his role in Gabriel's Fire and Best Supporting Actor in Heat Wave. Gabriel's Fire, for those wondering, was a TV series that was a revamped version of Pros and Cons that aired between 1990 and 92, where Jones played a former cop wrongly convicted of murder who, upon his release from prison, becomes a private eye. In 95, he starred in Under One Roof as Neb Langston, a TV series on CBS that was short-lived. It only lasted about a month. A widowed police officer sharing his home in Seattle with his daughter, his married son and children, and Neb's newly adopted son. But it earned him another Emmy. He also portrayed Thad Green on MathNet, a parody of Dragnet on Square One Television. If any of you watched like the first couple of seasons of Square One TV where they aired the MathNet specials, yeah, he's the head honcho of MathNet. In 98, he received wide acclaim on the syndicated programming in American Moment, taking over the role for Charles Courlat after his death. And one of the weirder things I've seen James Earl Jones do, you have to go back to the 1993 MLB All-Star Game in Baltimore, where instead of singing the anthem, accompanied by the Morgan State University Choir, he spoke it. And 3 years later, he recited the classic baseball poem, Casey at the Bat, out with the Cincinnati Pops Orchestra. He would do it again before a Phillies home game on June 1st, 2007. Over the years, he guest starred in shows like Law and Order, Lois and Clark, Frasier, House MD, Big Bang Theory, and Two and a Half Men, as well as The Simpsons and Treehouse of Horror Halloween specials. If you remember the original, for anyone who's ever watched the original Treehouse of Horror episode from The Simpsons, this is the guy. He also did the narration of The Raven, the final segment of the episode where Lisa is reading Edgar Allan Poe's classic to Bart and Maggie, with Homer overhearing outside of the treehouse. He was also the guy behind the This is CNN tagline and lent his voice to the NBC coverage of the 2000-2004 Summer Olympics, as well as doing narration of all 27 New Testament books in the audio book James Earl Jones Reads the Bible. He also returned to reprise the role of Darth Vader a couple more times. The first time in episode 3 in Revenge of the Sith at the end of the film, you know, the infamous no, no scene. And again in Rogue One, a Star Wars story in 2016. Though with the former, when asked specifically if he had supplied the voice, he said he told Newsday you had to ask Lucas about that. I don't know. I go on, but this thing is long enough as it is. Jones would officially announce his retirement in 2022, in September of 2022. As it turns out, now his voice was the software for the Disney Plus miniseries Obi-Wan Kenobi that was used to voice him was actually Respeecher software. His final screen credit would come as King Jaffe Hoffer in Coming to America 2, Coming to, yeah, number 2 America, the sequel to the 88 original in 2021. His first marriage was to singer Julia Marie, who he met in 64. They had no children and divorced in 72. He married actress Cecilia Hart in 82, with whom he had his only son, child, Flynn Earl Jones. Hart would die of ovarian cancer on October 16th, 2016. He had suffered from type 2 diabetes. In April of 2016, it was revealed James Earl Jones openly spoke out publicly about his public health. Specifically, he had type 2 diabetes, being diagnosed with it in the mid 90s after his doctor noticed he'd fallen asleep while exercising in the gym. Numerous entertainers yesterday paid tribute to him, and the University of Michigan paid tribute by posing a We Are in Michigan video narrated by Jones on X. So had Major League Baseball, the SAG-AFTRA, the NAACP, the SAG-AFTRA organization have also paid tribute to him. And as for actors, Kevin Costner, Mark Hamill, Alec Baldwin, Danny DeVito, Barry Jenkins, Ava DuVernay, Viola Davis, Coleman Domingo, Octavia Spencer, Jeffrey Wright, Jamie Foxx, Danielle Brooks, Davine Joy Randolph, Kerry Washington, Rosario Dawson, Cheryl Lee Ralph, Uzo Aduba, LeVar Burton, William Shatner, Disney CEO Bob Iger. Personally, he and Kathleen Kennedy deserve their necks in a noose, what they did to Star Wars and to Disney and Star Wars, respectively, and George Lucas. This is probably one of the longest obituaries for anybody I've had to do to date. But it's kind of sad. This is a guy that that nearly 7 decades worth of kids grew up with, whether it be on the stage, in films, or in television, and was one of the groundbreakers for African American in performers. A humble kid born in Mississippi, raised on his grandparents' farm in trauma, to a soldier, to an actor, a poet, to a soldier, to an actor. But now he's gone. Found his place back in the circle of life and one with the force he now is. Mr. Jones, farewell. God bless you, and we'll see you soon. I hope to see you soon. Rest in peace.